Hey everyone, I wanted to talk today about number 8 on the Magnolia Meter, Stanley Spector, the Wonderkind. And the Magnolia Meter is a way of talking about empathy. And so I've rated the characters in Magnolia from 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest in empathy, which is Phil Pharma, and number 1, unfortunately for Stanley Spector, being his father, Rick Spector. And Stanley is this really sweet 10 or 11-year-old. He's a contestant, or the reigning champion actually, on this quiz show called What Do Kids Know? And his father is this struggling actor. And as the movie unfolds, you really sense that his father is using his son as a means to an end, as a means of gaining fame and money. And there's a scene in the green room where all the parents are talking about what they will or will not allow their children to do. And there's something very uncomfortable about it, for me anyway, because I sense that his father is just really fake and is playing the role of good parent, but he's not really a good parent because he does not at all empathize with his son. He doesn't take his son's emotional needs at all into account. Whereas Stanley, I think, is very aware of what his father wants and needs. And so he's a really good kid. And he's done a really good job of fulfilling his role as the Wonderkind. But the dark side of this dynamic really comes forth when, through something as simple as Stanley needing to go through the bathroom. And here's this undeniable need that Stanley only has so much control over. And when he tells the adults around him that he needs to go, they tell him, Stanley, can't you just hold it in? We only have a minute and a half. And his father's like, Stanley, if you just do this, I'll give you whatever you want. Just do this. Just stay here. And of course, Stanley, being the good kid, he sits there and he does his best to hold it in. But he's just a kid. And he ends up wetting himself. And during the finale part of the quiz show, Stanley, being the smartest of the three kids, is expected to go on one-on-one against one of the adults. But to do so in this instance would mean crushing humiliation for poor Stanley. And so for the first time in his life, maybe, he refuses to comply. He refuses to fulfill the needs of the adults around him at the expense of his own. And in response to this, everyone, the kids and the adults, all gang up on him. But Stanley, to his credit, stays firm, and not only stays firm, but he asks the host of the show, Jimmy Gator, what do you expect of me? I played this role, this cute little kid, for everyone to admire and so forth. But when I have to go to the bathroom, no one cares. In essence, that's what he was saying. And one wonders, after the events of this film, how does Stanley come to terms with what's happened? Does he continue to stand up for himself? Like there's a very poignant scene near the end of the film where Stanley asks his father to be nicer to him, and of course his father, being who he is, doesn't hear him at all. But even so, one hopes that he continues to stand up for himself and is able to grow up to be a normal, healthy human being, such as Jim Curring or Phil Pharma, instead of becoming more like his father. I think by nature he's not like his father, but his father is definitely doing his best to turn him into into another version of himself. And I just hope little Stanley has enough strength to withstand that. Because to be human is to have needs, and you cannot repress your needs out of existence. You cannot talk yourself out of having needs. They will always be there, and you either learn to deal with them in a healthy way, or you learn to manipulate and coerce. Stanley's story, I think, really anchors the rest of the stories, because in the same way that you don't know which way will Stanley end up, like his father or maybe like Jim, you know that all the other characters, like Claudia Wilson and Frank Mackey and Linda Partridge, who do some terrible things in the movie, who are just often really unlikable, that they are the way they are because of something that happened in their childhood. Like Claudia Wilson, you find out later that she was molested by her father, and so it in trying to, in a way, self-medicate themselves or fulfill their own needs, they go about it in pretty self-destructive ways. And they leave behind them a pretty wide wake of destruction as they move forward. For example, Frank Mackey, with his 1-800-TAME-HER dating seminars, you have to wonder how many women is he responsible for getting raped. And it's like this sick game of tag. You know, you take the pain from your childhood and you tag someone else with it, and you tag another person and another person. And taking that into a wider context, isn't that what we all do? We become so blinded or so focused on our own emotions and needs that we cannot see how another person might respond to us. We rationalize, we ignore, we use words that hurt, we lash out. And taking that into a wider context and connecting it to what I was talking about in my last video, where we voluntarily put ourselves into this tribe or that, or under this label or that, where under the guise of this tribe or this box, we are so willing to try to impose our desires and needs onto that tribe, a tribe that will repeatedly tell us has no interest in helping us fulfill our unmet needs, and they could care less. And so we keep trying to figure out what's the best way to force this tribe that hates our guts to fulfill our needs, and it's just not going to happen. Yet we keep trying to do it, and I don't have any answers for that. It's just that I want to suggest to people, if you are collectively or individually trying to pose your needs or desires onto another person or group, recognize that it's probably not going to work, that force or manipulation is a very unhealthy way to get your needs met. And perhaps a more healthy way is to simply go within yourself and maybe imagine a system or society where such needs that you want to impose on this other group do not exist or have been solved. In other words, think outside the box, because thinking within the box has gotten us to where we are now. And in regards to the artwork, I, of course, was was inspired by a lot of the scenes of the film. For example, the rain of frogs at the end and the unfolding Magnolia in the beginning titles, and Stanley studying in the library. And I wanted to give it a kind of innocent, surreal look, like it was done with pencils and pastels. And so I exaggerated his features in a cartoony way by making his head bigger and his shoulders narrower, and making the frogs. I was going to make them more realistic, but then the cartoony look seemed to fit, also with the primary colors, the red and the green and the blue, to be more childlike. And yet this is not a childlike theme, because what I wanted to express was Stanley's sadness, the fact that he's hiding his sadness. And I didn't plan to have that taped on smile in the beginning. That came afterwards when I tried just having him look sad without the help of a piece of paper. But I don't know, it just didn't convey the same feeling. So when I put on the taped on smile, everything just clicked. And so I hope I conveyed what I was trying to express. I did a thumbnail and I put that into the computer, and then I finished it in Procreate. And I hope you like it. Bye.
Dad? Dad? Dad, you need to be nicer to me.
Go to bed.
You have to be nicer to me, Dad.